Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from anthonymorganti.com. This is episode 3 of the video series where I'm going over all the plugins put out by Topaz Labs. In this video, we're going to be doing Topaz Impression. Those of you that aren't familiar with it, Topaz Impression is a very powerful program that will give you images a painterly look or maybe a hand-drawn sketch look. You could do a lot of different things with Topaz Impression. And to demonstrate it, I'm going to be doing these 5 images down here at the bottom. Now, before I get started, just let me say at the top that I'm not being compensated by Topaz by doing these videos. I'm just doing them on my own. All right, as I mentioned, we're doing these 5 different images. And one unique thing about Topaz Impression, which is different than the previous two products we did, which was Clarity and Denoise, is that Topaz Impression will work as a standalone program. So you do not need Lightroom or Photoshop or any other program to run it. It'll work fine on its own. Now I am going to run it as a plugin in Lightroom just to show how it's done. And it's fairly typical. You would right click on either this postage stamp down here in the film strip, the image itself, or you could go up to Photo, Edit In. Now if you remember on the previous 2 videos for those products, we had to run them in Topaz Fusion Express because most of the plugins by Topaz do not run directly as a plugin in Photoshop. You have to run them with Topaz Fusion. They're fusing them basically to Lightroom, I should say. I think I said Photoshop a second ago. Uh, so anyways, the thing with Topaz Impression, because it's a standalone program, it'll work directly as a plugin. So it's down here. So we're just going to click right there and we're going to edit the original. I already converted all of my raw files to TIFF files to save time. So we're just going to edit the original and it will open up in Topaz Impression. Now, when you open Topaz Impression for the first time, it's going to ask you for your registration key or if you want to run the trial version. Once you do that, what you'll see, which you're not seeing on my screen here, is a take a tour dialog box. Uh, you could take a tour of the program, following the instructions in that box. And if you're like me and you got tired of seeing that, there's a little checkbox in the left-hand corner of that box, and it will never open again. And that's what I did. Now, the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you a tour of the workspace. One thing about Topaz Impression is it's got like a sticky startup, I think they call it. And what that means is whatever um, settings or whatever you did on a previous image, the next image you open up will reflect those same adjustments. So as you could see, this image already has an adjustment on it, which actually isn't too bad, but I'm going to be doing something different with this image. Now, real quick, the workspace. Over at the top left-hand corner, you can see there's a group of boxes. This is the view, how we're viewing the image. Right now we're looking at the processed image. You click the box next to it and you'd get the original image next to the processed image, and you could drag this around to view different areas of the image processed. You also could do it vertically if you so choose by clicking the next box to the right. The next box to the right just gives you a side-by-side view. In this box, this line here, you can't move. And similarly, this one will give you that vertical view. Tell you the truth, I only ever use this. That's the way I do it. Now, going more to the right, you can see as we hover over this little magnifying glass that this zoom bar comes in. So you could zoom in. And as soon as you do that, this little preview box pops up over here, which will allow you to move your zoom in anywhere you like that. When you get tired of looking at this little preview box, you could click right there. Now, an alternate way of zooming, if you have a PC and you have a mouse with a center click wheel, you could just spin that wheel and you could zoom in and out. If you have a Mac like I do and you have a magic mouse, you could just drag your finger on the top of the mouse and you could zoom in and out. You also could zoom in and out by using these little up and down arrows right there. You could also look at the original image by clicking there, and then click again to see the processed image. You also could just click down on your left mouse button, hold it in, you could see the original image, let go, and you'll see the processed image. You could do the same thing by holding in the space bar, although it's not doing it at the moment. I've done it before. I don't know why it's not working, but typically, here, let's see. No, it's not working. But you could, trust me, hold in your space bar on your keyboard and it will show you the original image. For some reason, my computer isn't doing it at the moment. Down here in the lower left, I'm going to go into these a little bit more in depth later. We have a strength control and we have a blend mode. And those of you that are familiar with Photoshop, the strength control is the same thing as an opacity slider in Photoshop, and the blend mode is identical to the blend modes in Photoshop. And again, we'll talk about that later. Now, what Topaz recommends is that you start out with a preset, and that'll get you something you like, and then you could go on and you could adjust the preset to your own taste. And I highly recommend you do that too. It will save you a lot of time. And really, there's so many presets in this program. It's really ridiculous, actually. Um, the presets, as all Topaz products, they're kept in collections. And if I remember right, there's something like 9 collections. And you go to this drop down right here, and you can see we're opened in the featured collection. And that is just kind of a sampling of all the different presets from all the other collections. Then you could go to all of them. You could look at ancient, impressionistic, modern, painting, pencil, pictorial, charcoal, and pastel. And then you could create your own presets, and we're going to be doing that a little later also. Now, I am going to do painting for this one. Not so much because I like it that much, but because I want to actually show you um, a specific thing once we start adjusting it for ourselves. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Now, one thing about these presets, they're really fantastic if you ask me. They really have a lot of presets that mimic a style of a famous painter, like here's Degas, or a period of or style of painting, like here is chiaroscuro. I believe that's how you pronounce it, if I remember right. Actually, as a photographer, you may want to really study painters and famous painters. I did when I started out in photography um, 40 years ago. So a lot of it I probably forgot, but it really will help you with lighting. And if you really pay attention to how the greats composed a scene and how they lit their scene when they painted their scene. So that's just a side note. But anyways, so we have all these different famous painters and we have all these different styles and from different periods. There's Georgia O'Keeffe, Hopper, Monet-ish. But anyways, what I want to do is I want to show you something with a lot of texture because uh, I want to show you how the light will affect your image. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'm going to pick this palette knife in oil 2. So I'm picking that, and I don't actually care for that too much. But as you could probably see, it appears there's a lot of texture here. Now, once you pick your preset that you want to use, you can see right here there's a little kind of icon that shows sliders. You could click that, or you could click the one, oops, way up here in the top right hand corner. It really doesn't matter. Once you pick your preset, just click it, and then the panel opens up and you could see the different sliders. Now, I'm going to close them all down just so you could see. I believe there's 4 different sections, and I typically start at the top and work my way down. And I'm going to go show you the stroke area first. This is the actual brush and the brush strokes that you use. And the reason why I'm doing 5 different images, because not one image will show everything perfectly, show all these sliders very clearly. So hopefully when I process all 5 of these images, you'll see overall what all these sliders can do. first of all, you could pick your specific type of brush. This preset uses brush the type 17. There's all these brushes here. You could just click through and try different brushes and see if there's one that you like better than another. So you pick the preset to get kind of the look you want, and then you could come through here and you could pick a brush. Like you could pick these, like kind of like looks like something my kids did when they were children. Um, but anyways, let's pick something again with some texture. I like this one right here. Now you could change the brush size with this slider, and let's see if it does much with this one. As you can see, yeah, it did quite a bit actually. You can see that the brush size is considerably bigger when I move this slider to the right. Now, um, what I would suggest you do is make a note of the value of the slider before you move it, because you might just be experimenting and you want to put it exactly back where it was. The only way you could put it exactly back where it was is if you really memorize that number, which I neglected to do. So I would suggest you do that. If you want to put the brush back at the 0 position, all you have to do is double click on the name of this slider and it will go back to the 0 position. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to leave it right there for now. Now the paint volume is just how much paint is on the brush when for each stroke. So obviously as you move to the right, it's not showing it as well in this image. The paint would be thicker, and as you move to the left it would be of course thinner. So the paint opacity is similar, I guess, to paint volume. It's just how much, I guess, paint is on top of paint. Um, so as you go further to the left, you have less paint on top of paint, and as you go further to the right, you have more. So you can see it's getting more textured as I move it to the right because we're putting more paint on top of paint. And I'm going to leave it like that because I am looking for um, some specific texturing so I could show you lighting in a minute. Stroke rotation, how are the strokes being rotated? Are they straight up and down, diagonal, sideways? And you could change that around by moving this slider. So we could spin them around. Also, the variation, are they all going basically straight up and down, or are we gonna chop them up a little bit, like move them around different ways? Some are going straight up and down, some are going sideways, things like that. Okay, we're going to leave it at that. Stroke color variation. Now you could see that we do have a lot of variation in the color in the sky here, but you could really make it a lot different as you move that to the right. Really more pronounced different colors up in the sky, specifically on this image, as you move to the left. Actually, it's not showing it as much as I thought it might um, on this image. Let me move these down. I'm trying to get, there we go. That's all right. So stroke width, how thick are the strokes? You can see now we got some really thick strokes there. Now stroke length, how what are the length of each stroke? So you could really have control as though you were actually painting this scene. And you could see that the shorter stroke length, it looks a little better for this specific image. Now, spill and smudge are like if you're drawing, let's say, a straight line, if you turn spill up, it's going to be more like you're sloppy. All right. Now I'm not sure how much it will show in this image. You could see here it's kind of sloppy, and making the lighthouse more like sloppy looking, not as defined. Smudge, on the other hand, kind of smooths it, but it does kind of overlap onto each other. Each stroke will overlap on each other, but it kind of smooths it out in a way. See how it's smoothing it out? So that's smudge. Now coverage is how much of the palette you're actually painting. Right now it's at 1.00. If I move it way down, you could see we are just doing kind of the center of the image. This would be typical a lot of times of portraits. If you're doing a portrait, how it might fade off to the actual canvas below it. I'm sorry, drew a blank. So anyways, once I move that coverage down, this opened up here, and we could then affect the coverage center. Like, where is the center of the coverage going to be by moving this little dot around? Okay, and the transition. When we move it to the right, it's a very, very soft transition. And as you can imagine, when we move it to the left, it's a super abrupt and harsh transition. So typically, I would put that all the way up. And you can see when I put it all the way up, those other two controls disappeared. So that's our stroke settings. So it's mainly the brush and how the paint is being applied from the brush onto the canvas. Next, we're going to do color. Now, this is a pretty typical HSL color or HSL panel. And it has the first choice here is all the colors, and you could affect the overall hue by changing this brush, so you could really change colors dramatically overall on the entire image. The saturation, you could make it black and white or make it really oversaturated. And lightness will really affect the brightness of the scene. Even if you have a vignette on it, it will make the vignette lighter. So if you have a black vignette over here, it's going to be gray now. So that is one thing I wanted to show you, that overall lightness will affect everything. Now the individual colors, we got like red, orange, yellow, green, aqua, blue, purple, and magenta. You could click on one of those and you could change the hues of the orange. Now the interesting thing about these swatches right here, when I hover over them, if you look in the image, you'll see these crosshairs or these lines come in, diagonal lines come in, and that is telling you exactly what part of the image you'll affect if you adjust that color. So on this first red, you could see that it's showing little lines here and here. Watch, I'm going to hover over it, and you could see. Now, the next orange, similarly down in here. Let's see, yellow, a little bit in the grass over here. Let's see, I don't see much happening with green. Tiny bit down over in here. Aqua, look at aqua, quite a bit in aqua. You can see all in here. Blue, a lot of blue being affected. Purple, some purple down in here. And magenta, little tiny bit of magenta too down in here. So what I'm getting at is, let's say that you want to adjust blue. So we hover over that, and we're seeing that a lot of the image is going to be adjusted now. So if I change the blue hue, you can see I'm really changing anywhere that blue was, I'm changing the hue. So more towards green. So it's pretty cool. So it's really a powerful tool. This HSL, or I'm calling it HSL, they call it just the color tab. So that's that, and we're going to do a little bit more with that in a latter image. Now lighting, this is what I wanted to show you. This isn't really the lighting of the scene. This is as though you had this canvas hanging on your wall and you put a light on it. And what I mean by that is, if you turn brightness up, it's as though you're using a brighter light bulb. And this light bulb is over here shining on the image. Now I'm just going to reset that. And to better illustrate this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You could see this texture that is being shown as the light is coming from the side. I'm going to put the light right in the middle. You could see how the texture dissipated. it's because the light is being shown straight onto the image now. But if I move it to an extreme diagonal angle, it's the light is raking across the canvas now and raking across all that paint. Remember, I put so much volume of paint on there and a high density of paint, so it's very conspicuous now when that light is coming from an extreme direction as such. And like that, we could do it like, you know, more in the middle, let's say. So we're getting less texture over here, but more texture over there. So this is a pretty powerful tool also, where you could actually move this lighting direction around to give a texture to the paint and to the canvas below that might be coming through. Um, you know, how much you want this to look, you know, this strength, I guess. Also in this area here, there's contrast in Vignette. Contrast, as you move to the right, as you might imagine, it's just making your image look more contrasty, and going to the left will be less contrasty. So that you could play around with to taste. Also, if you prefer to add a little bit of a vignette, as soon as you move it, you could see that two more controls opened up. And what we have is a vignette center, so you could actually move the center of the vignette, like over there if you want, something like that. And the transition, do you want it to be very soft transition, or do you want it to be a very kind of abrupt transition? So you could mess around with the vignette, with this vignette control. I think I kind of like it like that. All right, so this is the lighting tab. Next, we're going to go to texture. Now, again, like the brush presets in the stroke tab, we have a bunch of different canvas presets. So you could kind of have this image as though it was painted on specific types of canvas and or paper. So you could hover over there and you could see there's this angled weave, and you could see how it gave the image a different look. There's an asphalt, damaged asphalt look kind of to it on that one. So all these different textures. And again, the lighting will affect this up in here as we do move the light direction around. See, it will make these textures of your canvas stand out as much as you might like them to stand out. It's up to you. So as I kind of stated at the beginning, there's a lot of power to this program. There's just a lot you could do. Now, background type is solid, which is a color, like a basic color of the background before anyone started painting on it. So your canvas it could be white, it could be beige, whatever color you so choose. You could just pick it here. So you could pick that, like that, something like that. That's the actual, going to be the color of the canvas underneath. Or it will be the original image underneath. That's your choices there. So again, it's a really, I think, powerful program. Now, real quick, I'm going to touch on these two controls down here. I mentioned that strength is like opacity in Photoshop. And those of you that are familiar with Photoshop knows that Photoshop works in layers. So in here, we don't really have a layer panel to see what is happening, but you would imagine that the real image is at the bottom of the layer stack, and this processed image is at the top of the layer stack. And if you want some of the actual photo to show through, you would turn the strength down. And that means that the top layer, which is the processed image, just becomes more or less opaque. So it's a little more translucent, letting some of that bottom photo come through. So that's what that does. Blend modes, it doesn't have all the blend modes of Photoshop, but it has a number of them, the most popular ones really. So multiply, it will get a lot darker. So it's actually blending the top processed image with the image actual photograph below it. Screen's going to get lighter. Overlay will be a little lighter. And you could do soft light and hard light. You can see now it's getting a little bit more of a photo look to it when you do these different blend modes. So you could experiment with those. Maybe that will give you a look that you want. And when you're done with your image, you could just click OK. And it will then save the image. If you're using it as a plugin in Lightroom, it will load back into Lightroom. It just will take a second. And eventually we should see the processed image, and there it is. So we're going to jump to another one right now, and we're going to go up to Edit in Topaz Impression. Again, these are TIFF files already, so I'm editing the original one to save time. I converted my raw files to TIFF files ahead of time so that we could just hit the ground running. Now, a little bit more of my workflow. What I'll do is once it loads, I will look for a preset that I like, and I seem to like specific ones. This is one that I really like. This is the chiaroscuro look. I believe this was like a Renaissance and post-Renaissance type of painting that really used dramatic light, if I remember correctly. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but forgive me. I mean, it's been 40 years since I really studied art. But I like this look right here. I don't really have to look too much further. The only thing is I don't care for the vignette. So that's why you would use um, the preset to get close. And we're going to go in and we're going to change things around. So I'm going to jump right down to the lighting and the vignette. And as I mentioned, I really don't like that vignette. So we're going to take it away. I might maybe want a slight one, just a very slight one. I do tend to like smaller vignettes. Okay, like that. So that's good. Now that the whole chiaroscuro look is really dramatic lighting, so I kind of took it away when I got rid of that vignette. But that's fine. I don't necessarily want that specific look. I just want something that I like. So that's that. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to jump up to color here, and I think I want to change something down here and just make it look a little more surreal looking. So as I hover over these color swatches, I see these two, of course, are the yellow and the green are affecting this area more readily than any of the other color swatches. So we're just going to try to move this hue around. Now that kind of looks too goofy. Kind of like that. So we're going to pop over to green now. I kind of like that, but let's see if we go the other way. I kind of like that. Kind of get some purple in there. That's pretty cool actually. And let's see if we can mess with saturation a little. So you can see how powerful this color panel is. You could really get a surreal or a different look than your image really probably started out being. So so far so good. I do want to add some texture to the shot. Let's try some different things. And I think I want to try that. Nope, didn't like that. Let's try that. Maybe a little darker. I probably should have just left that alone. Okay, that's cool. Let's just go with textures some more though. All right. Kind of a fabric look. This canvas 5 I like usually. Yeah, that's more subtle. That's what I want. Now, size of texture. Let's say that you're doing this image and I plan on making a 5 by 7 print. I would want this size relatively small because if I spin it way up like this, it will get a lot thicker. And for a 5 by 7 print, it might not look right. But if I plan on making maybe you know an 18 by 24 inch print, I might want it bigger because it's going to be a larger print and it will look more proportional to the actual paper that it's being printed on. So it's up to you how to move that size around. But that's what I would recommend is if you definitely are going to get it printed, to make sure that you match it to the size paper that you plan on printing it on. So I'm going to leave it right around there and I'm going to turn this strength down just a little. So I'm okay with texture. I'm going to go back up to stroke here, and I think I want like a bigger brush size. Not that big. No, I didn't like that at all. There's a lot of hit and miss here, and so I would say that's pretty good though. I kind of like that, especially the grass. It's just this area up here bothers me a little, but nothing I could do right now. I'm just going to click OK, and that will bring that TIFF file back into Lightroom and replace, or it's going to, that TIFF file will now reflect the changes that I did in Topaz Impression. And it takes a second. There it is. There's my Topaz Impression look right there. Now we're going to jump over to this fisherman. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Edit In, Topaz Impression. And we're going to do the original again. And on this one, I think I want to do a watercolor look. Let's see how that works out. It's kind of a sketch look right there. That's kind of cool. But I think we're going to do, I think it's under painting. See, they have a Georgia Seurat. They have JMW Turner. All these different types of famous painters. Look at that. That is pretty cool. I think it's really amazing, actually. Okay, watercolor. There's watercolor 1, watercolor 2, watercolor 3, and watercolor 4. I don't like that one. Watercolor 5, watercolor 6. Kind of like that one, and I liked 4. Okay, let's go with watercolor 4, or I'm sorry, 6. And again, we could just mess around with the paint volume. Let's see what happens here. Not a lot. On some, images, it will be more pronounced than on others. You can see paint volume didn't affect this image much. We'll go with that. Stroke color variation. I think I want to add a little more color into the thing. I want to make it a little sloppier looking. Yeah, a little more like that. Let's see what smudge might look like on this one. I don't care for that. As a matter of fact, let's set that to 0. Okay, real quickly, I think I kind of like that. I don't think I want to change or enhance any of the colors. Let's see if we move lighting around, how it affects our image. Yeah, I kind of like it right there. And I don't think I want any texture per se, so I'm going to leave the strength low. And I'd say I'm done with this. So that's how quickly I guess you could come to resolution on your image. If you have an idea ahead of time what you like, you could just jump right into it. So that is that. Now we're going to do this little deer. We're going to go down again to Topaz Impression. the original file. And on this one, I think I'll use one of the artist presets that are there. And then on the last one, I'm going to use like a charcoal or a pencil drawn or something like that. We'll do on that last one. So um, again, now it was sticky, so we're in painting again. Um, so where we were last time, but that's okay. Let's see. Don't like that. I really like Hopper a lot. Uh, I like his style. I like Degas too. My favorite painter probably of all time is Monet, and actually I don't care for the presets that are in here for Monet. Let's see, Hopper. George O'Keeffe. Uh, so bear with me. I'm sorry. I should have probably did this. All right, these other ones now, it says Oil Painting 2 by Jim Lasala. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's a photographer who did some videos apparently for Topaz, some training videos or webinars or seminars. And he has some presets of his own that he has supplied. And they're included in the program. So that's pretty cool too. You get a professional's preset for free in the program when you get it. So I think I'll use his as a starting point, and we're going to I think I like all the strokes and everything. I just want to mess with the color a little bit, and I want to specifically mess with all those grasses um, that are around the little deer. So yeah, see, something like that I just think kind of looks cool. Like that. Yeah, I kind of like that right there. You could mess around with lightness too. Let's see. Make it a little darker. Yeah, that's exactly what I like. That I like a lot. So let's say now I want to make this a preset. I would go right here to this little plus button. It says Save New Effect when you hover over it, and you click on it. And where do I want to? First, I'll give it a name. I'm gonna go. I'll give it. I don't know. Surreal Paint. All right, and where do you want to save it? You could say give it different tags. It's painting basically, and you click save. Now when I go back to these presets and I go to my presets, it's there in Surreal Paint. It also, if I'm not mistaken, should be at the bottom of this one. Yes, it is right there, Surreal Paint. So there it is. That's how easy enough to create your own preset. And we're going to click OK. And that, of course, then will do the same. It'll save it and load itself in Lightroom. I think in the next, I'm not sure what Topaz plugin I'll be doing next. Again, leave in the comment section. Please mention which plugin you'd like me to do next. I think I will do that one from Photoshop just to show you how you would run these from Photoshop. So next we're going to do this one. And I think with all these bars and poles and stuff on this bridge, I think this one would look nice as some type of pencil sketch. So I'm going to edit that one in Topaz Impression, the original. And those of you that are still with me, I appreciate it. I'd like to thank everyone that watches my videos. I really do appreciate it, and everyone's kindness. Thank you so much. It really makes my day. Thank you very much. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to go into, let's say, pencil first. Let's see what we can find there. And if I can't find anything, I'm going to go to charcoal and pastel. So we'll go to pencil first. And let's see, colored pencil. I kind of, in my mind's eye, I picture this more as a black and white shot. So here's one, pencil sketch by Tony Sweet. Let's see, that's another, I think, person that probably probably did a webinar or a seminar for Topaz, and that's one of his presets. Here's a quick sketch. I don't care for that. Sketch work there, soft sketch. Yeah, I don't care for really any of these, to tell you the truth. So let's go to charcoal and pastel. And like I mentioned, I'm going to prefer, oops, didn't want to jump right through to there. Actually, I kind of like that one. My gosh, I'm sorry, I'm screwing up here. Charcoal and pastel. I think it was charcoal 1 before I got too crazy. Yep, it was. Let's see what charcoal 2 looks like. A little too defined, I think, for me. Charcoal 3. And let's see if there's any other black and white ones. I don't like any of the smudged ones. So I think we're going to go back to charcoal 1, and I'm going to edit it to make it mine. So I think right here, I think the brush size will really affect this image. Yeah, it does. See, as I go to the right, it makes it a little more resolute. To the left, a little less resolute. See if I could find this happy medium where I like it. Maybe right around there. Yep, I kind of like it there. Let's smudge it a little bit. Nah, smudging is going to make it too smooth for my liking, but we could spill it a little bit. And there, that's what I'm looking for. A little more obscured look. And see how I said when before obscured, it's like if you're painting in a line, if you move spill to the right, you're not painting in the line as well anymore. So I kind of like that look right there. The only thing I'd like to do now is I'm not really concerned about the lighting or anything. I want to add a texture to it. Let's see, like a tile texture. I don't like that at all. How about a wood grain? I think a wood grain goes good because the bridge is wood. I think that kind of matches. We're going to go with that solid background color right there. And let's just mess with the strength a little bit. Yeah, this is though as it was painted on a wooden wall. Yeah, I like that a lot right there. So we're going to click OK. So I think I covered everything that you could do with Topaz Impressions. I think you'll agree that it's a very powerful program and gives you a wide range of choices of processing an image to give it a painterly look, a sketched look, whatever. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for watching my videos, and those of you that lasted this long, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Not sure how much I'm going to be able to do the next few days. I'll be in New York City for the next few days. So I'll try to do something though and get something on the website. If you could, any suggestions again of what you'd like me to do with Topaz, the next plugin, let me know. Or any other videos for that matter, just leave them in the comment section below. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.